They said the shot was impossible. 7 targets, 1 bullet, no trace. The Pentagon called it a myth. The Marines called it a miracle, but the Navy SEALs called it her. When Colonel Richard Mallory was summoned to the Naval Special Warfare Sniper Range under the gray dawn skies of Coronado, he expected a disciplinary review, not a legend in the making. He had seen thousands of soldiers, hundreds of shooters, but none who could make hardened combat veterans stand silent. The message from command was brief: inspect the SEAL sniper. Codename Ghost 7. What he didn't expect was that Ghost 7 would be a woman barely in her 30s, her uniform half-tucked, her calm too cold, her eyes too steady. As he approached the range, the sound of distant surf mixed with the echo of a suppressed rifle. It wasn't a practice shot. It was a statement. The bullet hit dead center in a target hidden behind 6 steel plates and a glass sheet designed to refract trajectory. Every sniper on base had failed to even graze it. But she didn't just hit it. She carved her initials into the metal. Colonel Mallory froze mid-step, unsure whether to applaud or demand an explanation. The woman slowly lowered her custom-built 338 Lapua rifle, painted in muted gray ghost camo. "Colonel," she said quietly, her voice smooth but lethal. "I don't miss." Her name was Lieutenant Commander Elise Varon, call sign Spectre. Rumor was she had turned down Delta Force, CIA SAD, and even a classified NATO task group because she claimed no one could keep up. He studied her personnel file. Classified, half-redacted, filled with commendations for missions that officially didn't exist. Her record was spotless, her kill count unconfirmed. Her dismissal requested 3 times by officers who later retired unexpectedly. The colonel, known for his intolerance of arrogance, found himself speechless. The brass sent him here because of an incident, one that nearly sparked an international incident. The Ghost 7 shot. It happened during an extraction in northern Syria, where 7 enemy snipers had pinned down an Allied convoy. Witnesses swore Elise had fired once, and all 7 threats went down within seconds. Ballistic math said it was impossible, but her team swore they saw it happen. Mallory wanted to believe it was luck or exaggeration, but deep down, a part of him wondered if the rumors about her custom bullet, a split-core 7-fracture round, were true. As he watched her reload, her hands calm as glass, he asked, "You know why I'm here, Commander?" She nodded once. "Because you don't believe in ghosts." He raised an eyebrow. "And I should?" Elise gave a faint smile. "You'll see." Moments later, she activated the range's new AI training drone system, code-named Phantom Field, designed to mimic real battlefield chaos. Targets popping in random patterns, distances shifting, winds recalculating. Every other sniper had failed to pass even Phase 1. She didn't ask for permission. She simply began. The colonel folded his arms, curious but skeptical, until he saw her close her left eye, then, shockingly, her right. She was firing blind, trusting only the sound of wind, echo, and instinct. Her body moved like a machine built for recoil. 7 shots rang out like thunderclaps, swallowed by the horizon. The monitors flickered. When the smoke cleared, the digital readout displayed a near-impossible message. All targets neutralized. Time: 8.3 seconds. Mallory blinked, certain it was a system glitch. But the observers watching from the control tower stood frozen, some recording, others whispering. Elise calmly ejected her last shell casing, caught it mid-air, and etched a small ghost symbol into it with a combat knife. "The Ghost 7 shot," she murmured, sliding the casing into her pocket. Perfected. The colonel, suddenly feeling every year of his service pressing on his shoulders, realized this wasn't a myth. This was mastery wrapped in madness. He wanted to ask how she did it, how she calculated the ricochet arcs, the time differentials, the sound delays, but her eyes told him she'd never explain. "You were supposed to be reviewed for discharge," he finally said. "Now I think I'm supposed to recommend a promotion." Elise gave him a long, unreadable look, then said, "Don't. They don't like it when ghosts draw attention." He frowned. "Who's they?" She holstered her weapon, slung her rifle across her back, and whispered, "The ones who trained me to disappear." As the wind carried the faint echo of her words across the range, Colonel Mallory realized something chilling. The Ghost 7 shot wasn't just a legend. It was a message. And someone, somewhere, didn't want it remembered. The next morning, the ocean mist hung thick over the Coronado base as Colonel Mallory stepped into the restricted section of the intelligence wing, his ID checked twice by silent MPs who looked as though they'd seen too much. The file on Elise Varon sat sealed in a red folder marked Eyes Only, Omega Authority. Inside were mission logs that didn't officially exist, photos of targets neutralized with surgical precision, and ballistic reports that read like science fiction. The colonel leaned over the desk, muttering to himself, "Who trains a person like this?" The answer came not from a file, but from the door opening behind him. Admiral Sterling walked in, flanked by two intelligence officers from a division Mallory had never heard of. "Colonel," Sterling said flatly, "you're here because command is concerned. Ghost 7 wasn't supposed to resurface." Mallory frowned. "Resurface? You make her sound like a weapon." The Admiral's eyes flicked to the sealed folder. "That's exactly what she is." They led him to a dark operations theater where classified footage played on a massive screen, grainy infrared, time-stamped years earlier. The image showed a small Middle Eastern compound surrounded by hostiles. Suddenly, a single shot tore through the night, splitting into 7 distinct heat signatures that curved impossibly mid-air, each one finding a target. The colonel's breath caught. "That's not possible," he whispered. The Admiral nodded grimly. "She developed a round that uses a microfracture chamber with a reactive magnetic field, experimental tech from DARPA that was scrapped after it vanished from the prototype lab. Elise didn't just learn it, she improved it." Mallory watched as the recording zoomed out, showing Elise stepping from shadow with calm precision, smoke curling from her barrel. He asked, "What's the problem?" "You have a weapon the world's never seen." Sterling shook his head. "The problem is she went rogue after her team died. The mission was classified as a success, but half of Ghost Unit 7 never came home. She blames us. The Ghost 7 shot wasn't a legend. It was her revenge." Mallory turned cold. "You're telling me she used that technique to kill our own?" Sterling didn't answer directly. "She claims she only targets those who deserved it. But we've lost 3 agents connected to Project Spectre, and ballistic analysis shows Ghost signatures." The colonel's mind raced. "You brought me here to evaluate her, not arrest her." The Admiral's gaze hardened. "You're the only one she respects. If anyone can bring her in, it's you." Outside the window, the sun began to burn through the fog, casting long rays across the base, as if cutting through the past itself. Hours later, Mallory found Elise standing on the range again, her weapon disassembled, components laid out like surgical instruments. "You knew they'd send me," he said quietly. She didn't look up. "Of course. They always send someone who still believes in rules." "They think you went rogue," he said. "Tell me they're wrong." Elise's hands paused mid-motion. "Wrong?" She exhaled. "When my team died, command called it acceptable loss. They left us to die in an ambush they orchestrated to cover an arms deal gone wrong. You think I'd stay quiet after that?" Mallory's chest tightened. "You're saying the operation wasn't about extraction," she finished. "It was about eliminating witnesses." She finally looked at him, her eyes no longer calm, but burning with controlled fury. "I perfected the Ghost 7 shot because I promised myself no one would ever manipulate me again." Mallory stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If what you're saying is true, you're sitting on evidence that could topple half the Pentagon." Elise smirked faintly. "Maybe that's why I'm still breathing. They want to know if I'll use it." She clicked a component into her rifle, sealing it shut with a final metallic snap. "You're not here to inspect me, Colonel. You're here to decide whether to protect me or end me." The Colonel stared at her, realization hitting like a shockwave. The shot, the myth, the secrecy, it wasn't about military legend. It was about cover-ups, betrayal, and a woman turned ghost by her own command. As the wind cut across the range, Elise adjusted her scope toward the horizon and whispered, "They're coming tonight." "Who?" he asked sharply. She looked at him, eyes dark and steady. the ones who trained me to disappear. The sun sank behind the Pacific horizon, turning the sky the color of burning metal as Coronado Base fell under an unnatural silence. Colonel Mallory paced the dimly lit command room, the air heavy with tension and static. Every motion sensor, every patrol drone, every piece of surveillance tech was active, yet Elise Varon had vanished from sight. The Admiral's words echoed in his mind. If she's right, they'll come for her tonight. He didn't want to believe it, but every instinct honed from decades of combat screamed otherwise. Just past 2300 hours, the first alert pinged, a heat signature outside the perimeter. Then another, then 7 in total, moving in perfect synchronization. Their formation too precise to be ordinary infiltrators. Mallory grabbed his sidearm, rushing to the range where he'd last seen her. There she stood in the open, her ghost gray rifle leveled toward the darkness, her hair whipped by the ocean wind, her face illuminated by the faint red glow of a targeting laser sweeping across her chest. "They're here," she murmured, not in fear but with something closer to relief. Out of the night came 7 shadow-clad operatives, weapons raised, men she once called teammates, long presumed dead. "Spectre!" one of them hissed through a voice modulator. "You weren't supposed to survive Syria." Her gaze hardened. "Neither were you." The colonel ducked behind a vehicle as the first shots cracked the night, silenced bursts slicing through the air like whispers of death. Elise rolled, fired once, and dropped one of the shadows before he hit the sand. "You think I don't know how you move?" she called out. "I designed your training." The colonel tried to radio for backup, but the channel was dead, jammed. Static filled his earpiece as he watched her move like a phantom, firing, reloading, ducking, spinning, every motion rehearsed, precise, beautiful, deadly. He realized this was her element, chaos molded into rhythm. The men hunting her weren't assassins. They were ghosts of the same program that built her, now sent to erase their own creation. Suddenly, a flashbang detonated near the firing line. Mallory's vision went white, his ears ringing. When the haze cleared, he saw 2 more bodies on the ground, and Elise crouched low, her rifle now empty. The last 3 attackers fanned out, closing in with combat knives. Mallory shouted, "Varon!" but she didn't respond. Instead, she reached into her vest and pulled out a single shimmering round etched with the number 7. "You wanted to see it again, Colonel?" she said through the smoke. "This is it." She loaded the bullet, adjusted the rifle's chamber, and fired, not straight, but upward into the night sky. For a second, nothing happened. Then, as if obeying invisible laws of vengeance, the round split mid-air, fracturing into 7 glowing trails that curved back toward the earth. Mallory stood frozen as the projectiles found their marks, 7 bodies collapsing simultaneously, the last one falling at Elise's feet. Silence returned, heavier than before. The Ghost 7 shot, real, impossible, witnessed. Elise rose slowly, breathing hard but steady, the rifle smoking in her hands. "Now you believe?" she said quietly. The colonel nodded, speechless. The sound of distant sirens began to echo across the base as reinforcements finally arrived, too late to matter. Elise looked at the horizon, her expression unreadable. "They sent them to erase me, but I erased them first." Mallory stepped closer. "What happens now?" She turned her rifle sideways, ejecting the final casing into his palm. "Now," she whispered, "they'll come for you, too." The colonel looked down at the shell. On it, faintly engraved beneath the ghost symbol, were the words, "Phase 2 initiated." His pulse quickened. What the hell is Phase 2? But Elise was already gone, melted into the fog, leaving only the echo of a single impossible shot lingering in the air like a warning. By dawn, the base was sealed, the press locked out, and the Pentagon in chaos. Colonel Mallory stood in the command bunker watching satellite feeds flicker with static as every trace of Elise Varon, Ghost 7, vanished from the system like she'd never existed. Command issued a false statement. Training incident, minimal casualties. But Mallory knew better. 7 Black Ops agents were dead, and the woman responsible was now a ghost in every database. Hours later, a coded message arrived on his secure tablet. No sender, no trace, just one image, a single bullet casing stamped with a ghost and the words, Phase 2 complete. Beneath it, a list of names scrolled across the screen. High-ranking officers, contractors, and politicians tied to the Spectre project. Every name on that list was due to testify in a week before a classified oversight committee. Mallory realized she wasn't running. She was exposing them one by one, using their own shadows against them. That night, a breaking news alert hit global networks. 7 explosions at 7 government safe houses across 3 continents, all simultaneous, all identical signatures. No casualties except the targets themselves. The Pentagon labeled it cyber-terrorism, but Mallory recognized the timing, the precision, the silence between impacts. The Ghost 7 shot repurposed for justice. Standing on the pier where he first met her, he stared out into the fog and whispered, "You turned vengeance into balance." From somewhere far out at sea, a single suppressed shot echoed back, a sound only he would recognize. The colonel smiled faintly. "Good hunting, Commander." Then the wind carried the echo away, leaving nothing but the endless hum of the ocean and the legend of a sniper who became a ghost the world would never see again. Subscribe for more powerful military stories inspired by true legends, where heroes, ghosts, and truth all share the same trigger.